Hello and welcome to the Businesstalk podcast. I'm Deepak, joining you from India and delighted to host today's episode. It's truly pleasure to have Dr. Guneet Kaur Nagpal joins us as our distinguished guest on today's episode. Dr. Guneet Kaur Nagpal serves as an assistant professor of marketing at the Ivey Business School, Western University, Canada. Her research lies at the nexus of marketing and technological innovation, where she employs advanced econometric methods to understand how both consumers and firms adapt to emerging technologies. Her work dwells into firm decision making through the lens of pricing strategy, innovation adoption, and responses to data breaches across industries. On the consumer front, she investigates behavioral responses to phenomena such as information aggregation, dealer negotiations, cryptocurrency airdrops, and AI-enabled decision tools. Her research has appeared in the Harvard Business Review. Dr. Nagpal is also a Gen AI Teaching Fellow and recipient of the David G. Burgoyne Teaching Award at Western University. At Ivey, she teaches marketing management and digital marketing analytics to HBA students and has authored several business cases exploring marketing practices shaped by emerging technologies, including artificial intelligence, blockchain, and social media. Before joining Ivey, Dr. Nagpal completed her PhD in marketing at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. She brings 4 years of industry experience from Nielsen IQ and holds an honors degree in physics with distinction from Punjab University, Chandigarh, as well as a master's in business economics from Delhi University. Today, Dr. Guneet Kaur Nagpal joins us to discuss her research. Do time windfalls drive attention to blockchain? Evidence from COVID-19 lockdowns. Let's not keep you waiting. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Guneet Kaur Nagpal to the podcast. Professor Nagpal, we deeply appreciate your gracious acceptance of our invitation. It's an honor and privilege to host you today.
Thank you so much, Deepak. The honor is mostly mine, and I'm excited to share about my research. Thank you so much for reaching out to me.
Thank you. Professor, what first motivated you to ask whether interest in blockchain is driven by speculative hype versus more deliberate, thoughtful engagement?
Yeah, so the idea of this research basically started during the COVID-19 time, honestly, when all of us were sitting at our home, locked down. And I was in Canada at that time and in Ontario province, where the COVID-19 restrictions were more stronger compared to most of the people I was talking to in the US market or in the India market. So those lockdowns really kept all of us thinking, so really had more time thinking about certain things. And one of the popular trends in the media, other than people, choosing new hobbies during those lockdowns or learning new things during the lockdowns, one keyword which kept coming back in the news media or popular media was the term blockchain and cryptocurrencies. And at that time, I honestly did not know much about the technology and cryptocurrency and non-fungible tokens or anything associated with it. So I got a little interested. I started searching about what is this technology about and what are cryptocurrencies. And while my own interest in blockchain technology was increasing, and I was feeding this interest by reading more about it and looking at some YouTube videos and understanding the tokenomics of cryptocurrencies, I realized that a lot of people during that time were talking about blockchain and cryptocurrencies. And being a causal inference researcher, one of the questions that came up to my mind was that is there any causal and not correlational relationship between the extra time we have during COVID-19 lockdowns and the interest in blockchain technology? So I understood the correlation aspect of it. So maybe, blockchain as a technology started off getting some attention in before COVID-19. So maybe it's just the time when it's getting a peak and it's nothing to do with COVID-19. It just happened to be that the lockdowns are happening and the technology is becoming popular. So it could be the relationship could be purely correlational. But I was interested in the causal inference aspect of it. So it was really me sitting at home having relatively more time than I would have usually because there was no travel, etc. And I knew many people in the world, although there was a lot of adversities associated with COVID-19, given the health problems and risks and several other factors associated with it. But there was also a section of population who got more time than usual because simply because they did not have to travel to work, or they were not going for grocery shopping, or there was no vacationing and meeting and socializing. So that really was the motivation.
Professor, you framed this study around time windfall during COVID-19 lockdowns. How did you come to see discretionary time as a lens for understanding attention to blockchain?
So when I was thinking about the question that I just mentioned, is it correlational study or correlational evidence or just a causal evidence? One of the research is very common in the finance domain is the notion of income windfalls. So what happens when you suddenly have more access to more money? So it could be a lottery win, or you suddenly get a bonus that you did not expect, or any of the brands that you purchases that you made, they just gave you some reward back which you did not expect. So all those windfall unexpected gains in income, there's a huge literature in the finance and marketing domain which studies how that windfall gain in income impacts the purchases or decisions of consumers. So that lens has always stayed in my mind, and I thought this idea is similar to income windfalls, except that instead of financial resources, it's now the time resource. And to me, I think for all of us, time as a resource means more than maybe sometimes financial resources. And unfortunately, I also realize that there's not much research on time windfall simply because there's no situation created around us where the windfall time gain happens. Everyone has fixed amount of hours in a day, 24 hours. So how do you get more time? So another this notion I bring up in the paper is that it's not really gain in time, it's the perceived gain in time, because time is fixed for everyone, unlike income, which can actually be gained and you can have more of income today than yesterday. That's not true for time. But time windfalls can happen through various an exogenous shock happening which allows you to do something which you wouldn't have done otherwise, simply because you were constrained with time.
Professor, can you walk us through your data setup? Nearly 1,000 blockchain related search keywords across California and New York, and why online search is a good proxy for genuine consumer attention.
Um, yes, so as I said, since I was interested, I and my co-author, I shouldn't say the use the term I. So it's me and my co-author Amrita. So when we were thinking of the question, uh, time windfalls isn't really a study that you can replicate or conduct in a lab. So how do you make people believe that you suddenly have more time? I mean, there can be creative ways, but we were really willing to use this observational data where the exogenous shock of COVID-19 lockdowns happen. So in the online space, how do you assess if people are interested in any topic? And the default choice we think is, are they searching about it? I think this study cannot be done today given the abundance and disruption of AI in our world. But I would say during COVID time, we were all searching everything on Google. So we thought since we cannot individually ask, the ideal way to get that information would be asking people, are you interested in blockchain? But that's not possible, feasible for a research, for a secondary data empirical research. So the good proxy for that is, are people searching online? Understandably, and that search online is not reflective of them actually opening an account for cryptocurrency or doing something deep research about blockchain. But search definitely can be considered as a first step towards deeper interest in a topic. So if I see 100 people searching online about a topic, there I can assume that a good proportion of those people would actually do make an action to interact with that technology or product. So we thought online search can be good proxy. Another aspect was the availability possibility of being able to collect that data. And regarding your first question on the like the county data, so we wanted to have geographical regions one which are divided by certain aspects. So that division could be one, there is a variation in the way the government or the policymakers, applied the rules on lockdowns. So we wanted some variation in the geography, where in some regions there is a stronger a lockdown policy, and other regions where there's a not so strong, weaker policy, because that variation is needed to find the causal impact on, the behavior of people. So New York and California largely, because a lot of information about these two states is publicly available, and there was also publicly available information on how many about all the counties in these two states, and the variation in the policy related to lockdown, and this variation across time. So it was a combination of two states with a lot of population, where we'll see a lot of variation in demographics and other aspects, and also availability of public data on the policy making aspect of lockdowns.
Dr. Nagpal, your findings suggest that when people have more free time, blockchain-related searches go up in a meaningful way. How big is this effect in practical terms? And what does it reveal about how people choose to learn about complex technologies?
Um, so the way we think about this research is, to us the magnitude is important, but I think the because that magnitude may vary across different geographies, so it's hard to say that whatever magnitude we find in our research is applicable everywhere. It'll be unfair to generalize that, but the only message we want to communicate is that the time windfall can be a good starting point to initiate interest in a technology which can otherwise be, esoteric for consumers, and they may find it hard to interact with. So our learning, I think, is an indication for managers who are uh, launching products which are difficult to use, difficult to understand, and many times people are given with manuals to understand the technology or interact with a difficult product or a difficult gadget. But what we are suggesting is that find a way to increase the time, give consumers a time windfall to be able to interact with the technology. Now, how do you give time to consumers? Because that can be, you cannot generate time for your consumers. So as a marketer or a manager, what you can do is you can find some windows in the lifetime of a consumer where these windfalls might open up, and that may be a good way to find consumers, to get consumers to interact with the technology.
Professor, one of the most intriguing results is that the time effect weakens when Ethereum prices spike. How do you interpret this crowding out of thoughtful exploration by speculative hype?
So here we found that when we thought of this question, that is COVID-19 lockdown, the extra time that people have is impacting them to search more about blockchain. So one of the default answers that comes to our mind is, oh, maybe people are getting interested now because simply because the ETH and the Bitcoin prices are going up. So it's nothing to do with you being sitting at home due to COVID-19, but it's just that the cryptocurrency prices are going up. So it's hype related, not really you sitting at home related. So we wanted to check if that effect exists, and we found that when we control for ETH prices or Bitcoin prices and their volatility in our model, the effect actually still exists, and the effect of the ETH prices and Bitcoin prices actually is not directly impacting the online interest in Google. Which, if our time windfall effect would have gone away after including the Ethereum and Bitcoin prices, then we could safely say that the initial question that we started off with is purely correlational. So it's the hype in the cryptocurrencies which is increasing the interest. Since it's time windfall related, we are saying that there's an indication that people are thoughtfully engaging with the technology. Because when if one reads the literature on time usage in economics, one aspects of this research and one finding of this research is that when people are thoughtfully engaging with something, one evidence of that thoughtful engagement is that they're spending time on it. If the engagement is not thoughtful, they may not spend time on it. Since it's time windfall related, we thought we can infer that it is related to thoughtful interaction with the technology and not just speculative. And just because someone said it to me, let me search on Google about blockchain. It's because I have extra time. I want to spend more time in learning about the technology. And we also provide anecdotal evidence in our paper where we noticed that during that COVID-19 time, there was a lot of there was a lot of YouTube content on blockchain, not the content like a marketing content, but educational content about blockchain as a technology and the cryptocurrencies and various other applications. And second, importantly, during that time, there were Coursera courses on the same topic. And there was huge increase in people taking those courses and learning about technology. So this period, windfall gain period, did overlap with people willingly wanting to invest time in learning about the technology to interact with it.
Professor, you find that unemployment shocks do not change how extra time translates into blockchain attention, but health shocks from COVID-19 deaths do. What does this contrast tell us about how well-being versus financial stress shape technology engagement?
Yeah, that was another interesting finding. So, and as I said earlier, like one of our hypotheses was that, oh, it's not maybe not time windfall related. So it could be related to the fact that a lot of people across the globe were losing jobs at the time of COVID-19. And we thought that maybe since people are losing jobs and there is a lot of hype around cryptocurrencies that you can make this quick money. So maybe the increase in online search figures are coming from the people who are probably losing jobs and now are looking for some other ways to earn money. So we wanted to make sure that could that be a relevant explanation and not what we are expecting. So we also tested that and we didn't find that unemployment didn't have anything to do with me being interested in blockchain technology. However, on the other hand, COVID-19 deaths, which can cause a lot of emotional stress in the geography where it happens, that is found to have a negative impact on this main relationship that we have, and which led us to conclude that if you are financially stressed, you may not be interested in the technology. That may not impact your interest in the technology, blockchain technology. But if your safety and the basic health is affected, you're stressed about the safety of yours and yourself and your loved ones, then you're not interacting or being interested in the technology, which was actually kind of satisfying for us that we are not just getting result out of nowhere. This is the hypothesis we had, that I may be interested in learning about a new technology, but if people around me are not safe, I may not, delve into something like that. And that was also found otherwise across globe, that geographies where COVID-19, the negative impact of COVID-19 was much higher. People were not engaging in fun or learning more as much as the other part where, people were impacted by COVID-19 just in a way that they were stuck at home, and probably had more time and nothing to do with the health and safety. So that population was found to be more explorative and doing things they wouldn't have done otherwise. So that also, and that contrasting finding actually gave us more confidence in our result, because this is what we would have expected if the time windfalls is to causally impact the attention to blockchain.
Professor, methodologically, you use a control function for approach with instruments like lockdown stringency, commute times, and weather visibility. For a non-technical audience, how would you explain why these instruments are crucial for making casual claims?
Oh, that's a very good question, Deepak. So the way for a non-technical, a listener, the way I will explain the usability of instrument is this. So whenever we have to make any causal claim, um, one thing the researcher or econometrician is doing is trying to get rid of alternate explanation. So if you go back to the second question we had, is hype impacting the attention or Google search on blockchains? Is it the health and safety? Is it the COVID-19 deaths, or is it the employment loss? So what we are trying to do all these with all these interaction effects is negating, getting rid of the alternate explanations. And the more easily the more number of such explanations we are able to get rid of, we can narrow down that, okay, this seems to be the plausible effect that time gains is impacting block interest in blockchain. So unless we are able to get rid of all these alternate explanations, a researcher cannot claim causality, because the underlying thought process is that there's always this some information in the error term which may be explaining the effect, and you're wrongfully thinking that it's the time windfall effect. So to break that, one can use an instrumental variable technique where we look for a variable that impacts the our primary x variable, which is the time windfall gains, but does not directly impact the blockchain interest. So here we use the weather conditions, and the way this instrument works is, uh, so if the weather is bad outside, let's say it's snowing really badly outside, I may be staying, my probability of staying at home will increase on that day. But that probability of staying at home has nothing to do with my interest in blockchain. It's just weather related. So it's impacting the willingness to stay at home, which is, the time windfall gain related staying at home, but it's not impacting the Y variable. So I use that instrumental variable to tease out causality. And similarly, the stringency of the lockdown policy across different geographies. For a policymaker, his intent to put a stringent versus a non-stringent rule in place for lockdown is not likely to be impacted by whether people in my county will be searching on blockchain or not. So since there's no, for both the variables, the weather and the stringency of the policy do not directly impact our Y variable, which is the interest in blockchain, we thought that these are safe instrumental variables to tease out causality. So yeah, I hope this is helpful.
Dr. Nagpal, your results align with the idea of rational inattention, that people allocate their limited attention strategically. How
Mhm.
does blockchain serve as a useful test case for this broader economic theory?
Yes, so the theory of rational inattention basically says that um, individuals are very thoughtful about how they spend time and where they spend time. And when they do not focus on something or spend time on something, they are making a rational decision about it. And reverse is also true. When I focus on something, I'm rationally making a decision to focus attention on it. Since there was a lot of perception about the fact that interest in blockchain technology is all speculative and it's all like irrational exuberance, people who are in it don't really understand it, and it's gonna be like a bubble which will soon break, and hence everyone who is associated with the technology is not being rational and about rational about their interaction with the technology. So the way we try to apply rational intention theory is, um, the since people are purposefully spending time in understanding this technology, now that they have more time in hand, we are saying that they're being rational about it. If we did not find any time effect, the gain in time effect, if it was only related to, let's say, the Google searches on blockchain and cryptocurrencies increase when the price of Ethereum or blockchain increases, or when President of United States make a press release about it, or any news related or hype related activity happens in the world, and that's when the interest in blockchain increases. If this was the only effect we were finding, then we would have said that yes, maybe it's speculative, it's led by attention, it's led by salience. What people are talking is what people are searching. But since we also find the time windfall gain in the counties where the gain in time increases due to COVID-19 lockdowns, there is higher search in blockchain activity, blockchain searches, and these searches go down when the policy is not very stringent and they can now go out. So they're purposefully allocating their extra time in learning about this technology. So one can conclude that this rational inattention theory can be applicable here, simply because it's to do with their thoughtful allocation of time. And the fact that um, since this is a technology type of technology about which it is not easy to understand, one, it's not easy to understand. Second, because of the decentralized nature of this technology, it is hard to gauge even the authenticity and credibility related to the applications of this technology. So the fear and inhibition in the minds of consumers about using cryptocurrency or technology, blockchain technology, is higher than, let's say, artificial intelligence or any other technology where you see government supporting it, you see universities offering courses on it. So there are credibility signals. So there's no fear in adopting and understanding and doing something about this technology. Blockchain technology specifically provided a use case where these inhibitions were higher, and hence the need for people to search about it or learn about it deeply meant more than maybe in some other cases.
Professor, what do your findings imply for policymakers and firms trying to foster more informed engagement with emerging technologies, whether blockchain, AI, or others, especially during periods of large external shocks?
Yeah, I think for I would say I think our HBR publication, which is based off of this very research, actually brings alive the application for the managers, where we say that marketers often assume that visibility and buzz is important when consumers are trying a new technology. But we don't tell that story. We bring in another aspect that the real trigger for consumer adoption is actually attention. It's not the visibility and buzz and hype around the technology. If you get people's attention, that's when the adoption will happen. So how do you get attention? When people have more time to give you attention. So we bring in the aspect that it can be very much applicable not only by marketers if they want new technology to be adopted, but also by in by managers when they're trying to motivate their, let's say, team to learn a new technology or learn a new module of, let's say, their proprietary tool that they're using. So using a snowy day when people are not coming to office and they have this extra time which they saved at home by not coming to office today, that windfall gain in time can be used by these managers to inspire their employees to adopt a new module or adopt a new technology. And for policymakers, again, whenever they want public or population to adopt something which is esoteric and has some inhibitions related to it, offering people with gain in time, gain in some sort of attention by taking away something from their plate so that they can have leisure time to interact with it, can be useful both for policymakers and managers.
Professor Nagpal, I would like to conclude this episode with one last question. Looking beyond COVID-19, how might future time shocks like widespread automation, 4-day work weeks, or remote work change the way consumers discover and evaluate new technologies such as blockchain?
Um, it's since COVID-19 was one of a kind time shocks. Um, I think one way to I always think of this. I know this concept is not popular across the globe, but in North America, there is this notion of daylight saving, which happens twice a year. So those days kind of sometimes feel like time shocks. They can be positive time shocks if we are gaining daylight, and negative for the winter weeks. So those, small windows can be used for adoption of some technologies. And I think with the widespread automation that's happening because of largely because of artificial intelligence, and even that can practically lead to 4-day work weeks, simply because people now will have more extra time to not extra time, but require less time to do same amount of work. Um, so that may leave them with extra time, which can be thought of as a time gain, not really a shock, because the shock has the exogeneity and an unexpected aspect to it. So, time gain, which can be used by consumers to learn new technology and can be harvested by policymakers, I think, and even marketers in a way that more consumers can adopt new technology, more consumers can adopt new products and brands now that they will have more time spare with them, having AI taking care of some of their work.
Thank you so much, Professor Nagpal, for sharing your time and insight with us today. Your work on how time windfalls shape attention to technologies like blockchain offers a deeply thoughtful lens on both consumer behavior and digital innovation. And I am sure our listeners will be reflecting on it long after this conversation. We are grateful you could join us, and we look forward to following your future research and having you back on the podcast again. Thank you once again.
Thank you so much, Deepak. Pleasure is totally mine. Take care. Have a good day.